Hello. So today we're cooking low and slow. A slow cooked beef is one of my favorite things to cook. It always turns out okay, so I always say it's great for beginner cooks, great for people who are underconfident because it's really hard to screw up, but the end result is always just melt in your mouth, delicious tender beef. Today we're doing a rich sort of red wine, which you can skip the red wine if you want, I'll give you options, but a tomato, mushroom, red wine kind of slow cooked beef pasta. So it is one of my favorites. I'm super excited. I would cook one of these dishes probably 20 times throughout the colder months in Melbourne. They're really great to throw in the slow cooker and the oven as well. I'll talk to you about both of those options as well, but super excited. One of my favorite dishes of all time. Come with me and we're going to make it together. Okay, so first steps with this recipe is that we're going to season our beef and then we're going to get it on to sear. There are lots of slow cooker recipes that say, you know, you can just throw it all in. Sometimes they don't turn out very well. So there are some recipes that I would say, absolutely, you don't have to sear off your beef or your lamb or whatever in this one. Throw it all into a pot, get it in the oven, or throw it all into the slow cooker and it will end up okay. This type of dish, I would absolutely say it is worth searing your beef off at the beginning. Just really sort of holds in that flavour, but it also caramelizes the beef, which therefore adds a whole lot of flavour to the overall dish. So I've just got some plain flour here. If you're celiac, you can use gluten-free flour or skip the flour altogether. And salt and pepper, that's it. Rub it all over our beef and then get it onto sear. So throw that in, it's about a tablespoon on each, and this is about 1.3 kilos of beef, chuck steak, just chopped, bit of salt, good pinch of salt. You want a really good, often I sort of hold back on the salt where I can, but with searing beef, or searing meat, it's quite important to add flavour, and then a good amount of pepper. Chuck steak is your most common and usually most affordable slow cooker beef to use. Alternatives are oyster blade, so oyster blade is similar. You can also use brisket, and then you can go into things like beef shin, that sort of thing, beef cheek. Chuck steak is definitely your most affordable and your easiest to get, whether you're in a supermarket or a butcher or whatever, they'll always have it. And we're just gonna give that a really good mix. Coat all of that beef in that salt, pepper, and flour, like so. And then we're gonna get it onto sear. And a really good important point with searing beef is you don't want to, annoyingly, because lots of people like to just hurry it up and skip past as much as you can. We don't want to throw all of this in the pan to sear because it won't have enough room to kind of sear in the way that we want it to, and what ends up happening is it just stews or steams, and it will create a whole lot of moisture and it won't give you that beautiful caramelized kind of outer layer that we want to bring flavor to the whole casserole or slow cook beef, whatever you want to call it. So now we're going to sear our beef. So you want to get a pot, or I'm using this, it's a cast iron pot. I'm using this because basically I'm gonna sear my beef off, get all my bits in, mix it all up, and then it goes straight into the oven. But if you want to use a frying pan, if you don't have an oven safe pot or a cast iron pot, you can do all this in a fry pan and then transfer it over to just a casserole dish or an oven safe dish that will go in. So we're gonna get that nice and hot. We're gonna put in a whole lot of oil, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil I'm using, but you really can use any neutral flavored oil you like, a good sort of 2 to 3 tablespoons. We kind of want it in there and then we just want it heating up. And then we're just gonna put it in probably in 2 batches with this amount. As I said, we don't wanna stew it, which this is the only time consuming part of this whole dish, I think. I think you kind of gotta give it its moment in the beginning and do your searing in batches. As soon as that's done, it's basically like throw all your other bits in, you know, cook it off for 10 minutes, and then the oven or the slow cooker does all the work. So it is worth taking that time at the beginning to just sear it off and get that flavor really right, so that then it creates a beautiful, comforting, delicious dish by the end. So that's getting nice and hot. We want it to be really hot. And obviously cast iron, it retains heat really well, but it takes a while to heat up. So we're gonna give that a little bit, and we want that oil to be nice and hot when we're putting our beef in, so it sort of starts to sizzle. Another quick thing about why I love using chuck steak, or why it's good for slow cooking, is there is lots of marbling throughout the beef. So you'll see that there's lots of white marbling when you're cutting it, or You might get your butcher to cut it, but that will break down slowly. And also there's lots of connective tissue in, usually it's the shoulder of the beef. And over time, in that slow and low cooking, that's what really breaks down and becomes really soft and turns into gelatin. And that's where you get your beautiful melt in your mouth beef. And that's why these cuts of beef are really good to use for slow cooking. Okay, I can see that's getting nice and hot now. So I'm gonna add my beef, just look out, it doesn't spit. And you can hear sizzle, sizzle already. Break it up, get it in there before that oil starts to burn. I've just turned it down slightly. So you just wanna separate it so that it's got enough room to kind of sit in that oil. One layer, just like that, and then we're just gonna leave it to sear for a couple of minutes. Look at that. They've had a couple of minutes each side, sizzling away. Sizzle, sizzle. It's very noisy and spitting oil at me everywhere. Look, I can see all the little spots of oil. You can always put on a dish glove, obviously a clean dish glove, or wear long sleeves, but it does spit a bit. So just be careful. No kitties up while it's spitting away. So that's our first batch. And then I might add a little bit more oil. I don't have much there, but we're just gonna pour in our second batch. So you can see there, it's got some beautiful caramelization. And then we just do the same with our next batch. I almost would do that in 3 batches now that I look at it, just so we don't overcrowd it. So yes, I might do that. I'm gonna hold off, even pull that out, and just let this sizzle away quickly. That's what I mean. If I sort of shoved all that on top, it kind of all clumps together, and that's when you get that stewing happening, because the moisture is released from the different pieces of meat and it's got no room to breathe. You be the judge, but you kind of just want a single layer with some space and spots in between to be able to let that beef breathe. So I'm actually gonna do this in 3 batches. Alrighty, so we've just seared off our beautiful beef. It's looking great. And you can even see by looking at that's gonna create a whole lot of flavor in our dish, because we've got these crispy, caramelizing, yummy bits and a whole lot of, obviously the flour, but the salt and pepper that's added a whole lot of flavor in the oil, just delicious. So that's a really important step, I think, in this dish. We're gonna use the same oil. So I'm using same pan, I've done nothing. I've got some leftover oil from searing our beef, and we're gonna start to cook off our veggies and then build the base of this slow cooked beef. So I've just got 1 large brown onion here that I'm throwing in. Sizzle, sizzle. Give that a stir. Now the thing you need to be careful about if you're using a cast iron pan like I am, I've got it quite high now, but it does, once you turn down the heat, it does take a while to actually come down to that heat, because the cast iron retains so much heat while it's cooking. So just keep that in mind. If you feel like it's getting on the edge of burning, definitely turn it down. If you are really quite worried that it is burning, add a little bit of water to a bowl or whatever and just pop it in the bottom so that it gives you that extra minute or so for it to cool down a bit, so it's not burning your onion and garlic. Because often what we find, if you burn the start of a big slow cooked dish like this, it can often permeate through the whole thing, and we don't really want that. So cook off your onion 2 or 3 minutes. Now I'm gonna add 3 cloves of garlic to my onion, throw that in and just cook that for about 30 seconds on its own. I've got carrot here. You can also add celery if you like. You can also leave it out altogether, so you don't have to add any celery or carrot, and you can just do the onion and garlic and the mushrooms coming up. So cook that out for a little bit. Then I'm gonna add, that's 3 carrots, just chopped up finely. Throw that in, stir that through for 30 seconds or so. And then this is just a dried Italian herb. So you can also use any kind of dried oregano. There's often now lamb mix spices, things like that. They don't have all the nasties in it. Forget the whole lot of salt and sugar and maltodextrin and all of that. You can get clean dried herbs now. So anything that's sort of Italian sort of style, spaghetti bolognese, anything like that. Throw in about 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on how, spiced you like it. And then we're gonna stir that through for about a minute or 2. Okay, so I've cooked off those dried Italian herbs for a minute or so, and then I've got some tomato paste. So this is about 3 tablespoons. It's gonna add a really lovely, it's going to add a whole lot of depth of richness as that cooks away over the few hours. So stir that through your onion and garlic and carrot. Beautiful. Then we're gonna add 400 grams or a tin tomatoes. Any ones you like, any ones are fine. If you like Roma tomatoes that are just squished in there that are whole, if you like cherry tomatoes, if you like crushed tomatoes, whichever ones you like, it's absolutely fine. It's just adding that tomato sort of flavor. Little trick I always add, it's not too bad with this, but a little bit of water, give it a swoosh and pour it in just so you're not wasting any of your tomatoes, your yummy tomatoes, and the extra liquid doesn't hurt in something slow cooked. It's starting to come together. The smell's already. It's like the smell's already and we haven't even started slow cooking. That's the other thing I love about slow cooking is that whether you've got it in a slow cooker or in your oven, it just sends the best smells out throughout your house, you know, over the 4 to 6 to 8 hours that you're cooking it. Now, concentrate, Sarah, what am I up to? So then we've got some beef stock and red wine. I'll add my mushies when I pour back in my beef. So it's about half a cup of red wine. Any red wine is fine. You know, if you're not a big, often if I have a glass of red and I don't finish it, the bottle sits in the cupboard for 2 to 3 weeks and it's not really drinkable. That's the perfect wine I'd say to use. In this instance, I've got a Shiraz, but any one is fine. If you don't want to use red wine because people might not, you know, have a preference for that sort of thing, you just replace it with beef stock. So here's half a cup of red wine. If you weren't going to use that, you just add half a cup of beef stock. So that can go in. I always like to add my wine and then bring it up to the boil just to cook off that alcohol. I mean, it will cook off anyway over sort of 3 to 4 hours in the oven, but I always like, just with kids and everything that are gonna eat this, to cook it away, let it come up and bubble to the boil before we add our beef stock. Bubble, bubble, bubble. Turn that down. Nice and hot, beautiful. It's popping about everywhere. And then we're gonna add, that's 1 cup of beef stock. Beautiful. A quick tip I'll give you about moisture levels is that it is roughly a cup, roughly half a cup, but don't always be so hell-bent on holding to the quantities of a recipe because everyone's oven can be different. And I've often had people say, I took off the lid and the liquid had totally evaporated, even though I followed the recipe. So that's really important that if you feel like it needs a little bit more liquid, just add whatever stock has been used or just water to help it, because the last thing you want is to cook it away for 3 or 4 hours and you know, get to the end and it's burnt the bottom of your pan and it tastes horrible because the whole thing is burnt. So always think about liquid or turning your oven temperature down as well. Okay, so now beef. Actually, I'm gonna do mushies first so that they get nice and under the liquid. That's about 2 to 3 cups of mushies, any mushrooms you like. They're the big flat mushrooms, but button mushrooms are also fine. They'll just slowly cook away over the next few hours and just melt in your mouth when they're all done. So push them under the liquid. And then I've got my beautiful beef that we're just going to be careful. There's liquid in the bottom. So get that liquid in. It's full of flavor and full of goodies. And just slowly tip. Oh, didn't spill. How about that, hey? Then you're going to stir your beef through everything. Get it under the liquid, that's key. It's okay for little bits at the top because we're gonna check it after a bit anyway. Okay, like that. I already feel like this seems quite thick. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be the beef, it could be the tin tomatoes seemed a little bit more thick than the ones I usually use. So as I said, you can always add 1/4 of a cup, 1/3 of a cup of liquid as you go. I'll get it in like this for now, but after I check after an hour, I might need to add some more liquid. Lid on and into the oven. That's it. Okay, so I've just taken it out, taken the lid off. I'm giving it a stir before it goes back in, and then we're gonna take that lid off for the last hour. It's exciting time. It's time to get out our beef and check it's all good. It's been about 3.5 hours, smelling delicious, and it is looking amazing. Oh, now let me give it a stir because it looks like it's a little bit burnt, but it isn't. It just often does this with the top layer. And then once you give it a stir and you get all your bits in, oh, who could not love this type of meal? Beautiful. So I just want to show you one thing before we stir through our pasta, which I've cooked. I just want to show you this. So watch this. Look, I'm barely even touching it and it's just pulling away. I'll get that bit a bit hot and let's get a nice big. The mushies are just, oh my God, this is my heaven. So here's a good bit. And I want to show you just how it literally, this is probably one of your harder bits and it just falls away. So it's just beautiful. So, you know, you can do whatever you like, but it does help to kind of break it up a little bit because it means that the sauce then gets into all the little bits and bobs. So what I'm going to do here, don't want to dirty my nice clean chopping board, sorry. Okay, so I've got my pasta here that I've cooked. I'm not gonna add all of it because we don't want it to be too, yeah, sorry, it's sat there. So adding a little, I don't want to add all of it. Ugh. Jesus, it's been a long day, you know? I'm just going to take a bit of that out. Oh God, now it's got beef in there. Oh my God. I just don't want to overdo it with the pasta because it's such a beautiful, slow cooked beef that then you don't want it absolutely saturated with pasta. And we just want to gently stir all this through. I'm also going to add some pasta water. So when I went to drain my pasta, I took a mug of water. That just always helps. Watch out, that's really hot because obviously it's been in the oven all day. And we're just gonna stir. Oh my God. This would be in my top 5 meals of all time. It just, something about a slow cooked pasta that is just like melt in your mouth. And so you be the judge when you're stirring your own through. If you want it a little bit more liquidy, so I see now that as I keep stirring, it's getting saucier and saucier, as in like thicker and thicker. I'm probably gonna add a little bit more water. That's just a personal choice. You can have it as thick or as runny as you like. As I always say, just be careful not to add too much liquid, because if you go overboard, you can't take it out. And that goes with everything with cooking. Add little bits and you can always, bloody hell, you can always add more. Oh my God, that's looking amazing. So again, you be the judge. I've got this little bit of pasta left over. I'm not gonna add it. I think there's enough pasta in there. My 1-year-old will happily, well, actually, you know what? My 1-year-old will gobble this down, but she will also happily have the plain pasta. So it's not wasted. Now I'm gonna serve you up a bowl and then we're gonna put some yummy parmesan, and look, you can stir through, it's totally up to you. I always say this is such a great dinner party dish because you can make it a day or 2 or 3 before. Often with casseroles and curries, the longer they sit in the fridge, the flavour increases and intensifies, so it actually gets better over time. So I always say to people, this is a wonderful dish to serve if you're having people over. You would just stop it at that, when it comes out of the oven, stop there. And then when you're serving it to your guests or your family or whoever you're having over, you cook the pasta at the time. Slowly reheat the slow cooked beef either in a slow oven or on a very gentle stove top until it all sort of comes out, you know, softens up, and then stir through your pasta just like I did. And every time I serve this for dinner parties, it's effortless. I do it 2 days before or a day before, throw it all in and go off to work. Then reheat it, serve it up, and everyone is like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. It's super easy. With all that babble, I forgot what I was gonna do. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. If you were serving it for people at a dinner party, you could, you know, chop up some parsley, put it all through. This is just for my family, so I am not gonna do that. I'm going to serve up some, and I don't know if this spoon's right because it's got holes in it, but oh my God, like just delicious. Look at it. The glossiness and like the yumminess of it. Get a bit more pasta on the top there. I mean, we're making a huge bowl here, but why not, hey? I mean, look at that. And then again, sometimes I know it's just for my family and I know I just said I wouldn't, but sometimes again, it's the caterer in me. It's got put a little bit of greenery. My nifty parmesan. Oh my God. One of the best. One of the best. I could just keep going with parmesan, you know. Tasting time. Tasting time. And it might need some pepper. I don't think it would need salt, but always a bit of pepper, but I'm just gonna skip that for now because I'm wary that, you know, we're recording and you people probably just wanna see what it tastes like. And I'm wary that it's gonna probably be 400 degrees. Oh, hold on. Get it all angles. I'm like doing this for my 1-year-old. Wow, knocks my socks off every time. It is so rich. On a winter's night, the glass of red wine, this is probably one of my favorite dishes of all time. And that is a huge call, but it's just true. So please give this a go, make it, and please also let me know what you think of it. Because I think if you like beef, you can't go wrong with this dish. You're gonna love it. Come on.